Beneath the streets of Venice Beach, hidden in plain sight, lies a city that once flowed with water. Long before canals and roller coasters, coastal villages fished these marshes and paddled the tidal channels. And if you were standing here in 1905, you'd see Abbot Kinney's grand vision, complete with canals and amusement parks. And if you look down at the streets, the outlines of that world still linger under your feet. From canals turned into streets and right-of-way bends where the Pacific Electric once ran, to boardwalk basements, tide gates, and oil field scars, Venice keeps its past just below the surface. Some traces were sealed, others filled and forgotten, yet the clues remain, waiting to be uncovered. Welcome to Voyager, I'm Armando, and today we're diving into what's hiding underneath Venice Beach. We'll follow the water, test the myths, and map the clues you can still see. Whether you grew up here or you're seeing it for the first time, by the end, you'll never look at the streets in Venice Beach the same way again. Let's get into it. Long before canals and colonnades, this coast was a shifting desert of sand and tides. Pleistocene dunes once traced Santa Monica Bay, piling high ridges and bluffs at the south end of Venice near Playa del Rey, and what's now the Ballona Wetlands Ecological Reserve. At the historic mouth of Ballona Creek, today near Playa Vista, archaeologists have uncovered shell middens, beadwork, grinding stones, and carefully placed burials, evidence of ancient shoreline villages that returned seasonally to camp at the estuary. Much of that world has vanished, but thin bands of shells and charcoal still appear beneath modern sand and utility lines when a trench or storm peels back the surface. On these same flats, Rancho La Ballona emerged in the 1820s and 30s. Adobe homes, corrals, and irrigation ditches set atop low rises bordering the marsh. As city infrastructure replaced that terrain, adobe walls collapsed and were buried. Decades later, excavations around Playa Vista and at Ballona Discovery Park revealed packed earth foundations, fragments of adobe tile, hand-blown bottle glass, iron hardware, animal bone, and seashells. Reminders that beneath today's infrastructure, relics from the past rest just a few feet below. Keep that buried shoreline in mind, because the next layer of this story begins where those canals were cut, filled, and redrawn as streets. If you were standing here in 1910, you would have heard water long before the sound of wheels. But the story starts decades earlier. In the 1870s through 1890s, steam railroads linked Los Angeles to Santa Monica and helped launch a corridor of seaside resorts. In 1891, Abbot Kinney returned from Europe with Venice, Italy on his mind. And through the 1890s, he and his partners developed Ocean Park just south of Santa Monica, laying a foundation for a bigger dream. After a split in 1904, famously settled by a coin toss and giving Kinney the Southern Marsh Tract, survey crews marked out the new community, and by 1904, dredges carved a grid of canals, built the Grand Lagoon, raised bridges, and connected Venetian waterways to the sea. On July 4th, 1905, the Venice of America debuted with gondolas gliding along the canals, the Windward Arcade illuminated, and a pleasure pier drawing crowds. Grand Boulevard, San Juan Avenue, Cabrillo Avenue, Market Street, and Main Street weren't streets at all. Instead, they were canals lined with boat slips, porch steps, and the occasional gondolier in search of a tip. Eventually, as cars came, the city paved its way into the future, and construction crews filled the canals with dirt and set curb lines where bulkheads once held back the tide. Beginning in 1928 and 29, the city formally approved street conversions, transforming Grand, Cabrillo, San Juan, Market, and Main from water lanes into paved roads. Those long, gentle curves and unusual angles on today's map point to buried channels, a hidden shoreline beneath today's traffic. These days, it's interesting to drive the perimeter and imagine these roads right beneath that were once canals. Windward Circle holds the biggest secret. It was once a grand lagoon, a central basin where rail cars looped and gondolas drifted beneath the colonnades. Now you see a roundabout, but its shape tells us its history. Walk the perimeter, and you trace the rim of open water that anchored the original community. And you can still visit in person today to see these relics of a time long gone. Many years later, in 1982, the canals gained historic district status and were approved for full restoration. And for the next few years, the project rebuilt bridges, sidewalks, and upgraded the tide gate hardware, keeping the daily flow of ocean currents still alive. Venice might run on asphalt today, but its grid was drawn with water, and the ground still shows signs tracing those old edges.
On the surface, Venice Beach looks like a laid-back beach community, but under the surface, it's full of hidden systems and foundations you'll never see. The internet's similar. On the surface, you see your browser and your apps, but underneath your traffic, some data can be watched or intercepted, especially on public Wi-Fi. That's where cyber attacks, phishing scams, and hackers can target you. So when I'm traveling or working in public, I use today's sponsor, NordVPN. With one click, NordVPN creates an encrypted tunnel for my connection, hiding my traffic from prying eyes on both my laptop and my phone. NordVPN lets you change your virtual location so you can find better deals on flights, hotel stays, and even subscriptions. You can switch to another country's server and unlock shows or movies that aren't available in the US. When you use my link, you'll get a huge discount on a 2-year plan plus 4 additional bonus months. Get it at nordvpn.com/VoyagerHQ. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and it's the best deal right now on the internet. Get it at nordvpn.com/VoyagerHQ or click the link in the description below. Now, let's get back to what's hiding beneath Venice Beach.
Venice's streets are layered like time capsules built on water. Beneath the asphalt also lies a web of early water lines that once fed bathhouses and bungalows, post-war electrical runs that illuminated the midway, and gas lines that kept the arcades running. Every trench dug today reveals traces of the past. Even now, when workers open up a lane for upgrades, they uncover rusted tracks, timbers, and forgotten conduits. The streets themselves still trace the rails. Follow them west, and they land where the red cars did: Windward, the Midway, and the pier. Backed by Henry E. Huntington, Pacific Electric's red cars knit Southern California together and sold the dream along the way. They hauled commuters, day trippers, and weekend crowds from downtown LA straight to Windward's colonnades, the Midway, and pier, with seaside routes that doubled as rolling real estate ads. As car ownership surged and highways improved, the West Side system thinned, and by the late 1920s, schedules shrank and buses increasingly took over. By the 1950s, most rails were paved out of sight. But the route still shows itself if you know where to look. You can walk the trolleyway, a narrow corridor just inland of Oceanfront Walk, marking the old beachside right-of-way where red cars once raced between Ocean Park and Venice. Electric Avenue isn't just a catchy name or a song. The linear park and old setbacks trace the interurban alignment that fed Windward Circle when it was a full-tilt transit hub. Follow those lines and you'll land directly at Windward's understage. All the basements and service runs and cellar rooms that kept the show moving. Beneath the neon and murals, Windward's arcade blocks sit over basements and service corridors first carved for Abbot Kinney's resort town. As crowds swelled in the 1910s, those subfloors expanded to keep pace with the Midway. Fires, quakes, and repairs reshaped them. and later restorations stitched the colonnades back together with salvaged columns and rebuilt capitals. Step inside a storefront, you might see bricked up doors, uneven floors, or utility shafts, all remnants of arcades, bathhouses, and backroom clubs beneath today's cafes and surf shops. The clearest example is the Del Monte, a documented Prohibition speakeasy once hidden behind a grocery counter and false wall where jazz thumped below the street level. Along Oceanfront Walk, hotels and theaters tied cellars and corridors so staff could keep moving kegs and cash out of sight, and a purpose-built maze that let this fantasy city keep its secrets. After Abbot Kinney's death in 1920, the vision lost its fiercest advocate, and by the 1930s and 40s, amusements faded and the slum by the sea stigma set in. In the 1960s, Muscle Beach was reborn in Venice, bolting new iron frames into the boardwalk and leaving a fresh pattern of anchor marks in the concrete. And by the 1970s, Dogtown's Z-Boys rewired the culture near the pavilion and breakwater, carving lines through the same alleys that once fed theaters and arcades, turning drained pools into a new kind of stage. And just beyond those walls, the stage didn't stop at the sand. It marched out over the ocean. From the moment Abbot Kinney launched the Venice of America, the Shoreline became a stage on pilings. Auditoriums, carousels, thrill rides, arcades, and a full amusement park packed shoulder to shoulder with roller coasters, Ferris wheels, fun houses, shooting galleries, pavilions, neon-lit midway games, all perched on timber and concrete. The first showpiece, Kinney's Windward Avenue Pier, burned in a major fire on December 20th, 1920. Reconstruction began quickly, and by May 1921, the Venice Amusement Pier was lighting the coast again with new attractions. Through the 1921-24 Race Through the Clouds coaster era, the pier roared despite storms, ongoing repairs, and shifting sand that kept crews at work. The 1933 Long Beach earthquake shook the west side, launching new inspection and reinforcement routines that shaped pier maintenance for decades. Further south, the story turns from spectacle to endurance. In 1964 and 65, the modern concrete Venice Fishing Pier opened, clearing away most timber and promising longer life than the old structures. It's closed, been repaired, and reopened multiple times after surf damage and ongoing upgrades responding to storms and seismic events. Go a little bit deeper, and the old pilings and the wood gives way to steel, oil casings, cut-off wellheads, and pipelines that stitched a hidden grid beneath the beach. Long before surf shops and street performers, this coastline was an oil patch. The boom began in December 1929 when the Ohio Oil Company drilled a productive well just east of the Grand Canal in Venice, kicking off rapid expansion across Venice, Del Rey, and Playa fields. Through the early 1930s, the shore bristled first with wooden derricks and then steel towers tapping pressure-prone sands beneath beaches and backlots. Sump pits sat where parking lots are now, and wellheads dotted backyards behind beach cottages. As production moved inland to larger fields, the seaside wells were successively shut in, plugged, or cut down to grade. What remains is the hardware, steel casings, cement plugs, and deeper gathering lines that once carried crude toward tank farms. Even today, utility crews sometimes unearth relics from the fringes of the Del Rey and Playa fields. You'll notice them the way oilmen did, by alignments, setbacks, and that one patch of asphalt patched over and over again. There's another legacy beneath the West Side Plain: methane. Ancient organics in the coastal basin created gas pockets long before the derricks arrived. The result is a checkerboard of gas-prone zones under parts of Venice, Marina del Rey, and Playa Vista. Systems hum quietly, and the pressures remain contained. But it's a reminder that Venice is built on reservoirs, both tapped and untapped. While the subsurface was getting mapped, engineers were about to redraw the waterline itself. Marina del Rey would change how tides and sand move. Marina del Rey began as a mudflat marsh and a wandering river mouth. In the 1930s, Ballona Creek was straightened and armored for flood control, locking in its once meandering channel into concrete and setting the stage for bigger changes. From 1959 to 1965, engineers cut a deep entrance through the shoreline, dredging and surrounding the new harbor with breakwaters and rock jetties. Those cuts rewrote the local script for tides and sand. A deeper, straighter inlet increased the tidal flow through Ballona Channel, where the breakwaters calmed waves inside and disrupted the drift outside. Sand built up against the jetty upstream and reaches down coast. Inside the harbor, depths remain steady for navigation. A flood-controlled creek and a mid-city marina built for boats quietly changed how this coastline trades water and sand. But tides aren't the only force rewriting Venice. Every so often, the ground itself takes a turn. Stand on the boardwalk and the ground feels solid, but Venice sits on young, water-saturated terrain, dune sand, canal fill, and silts deposited by Ballona Creek. This geology creates excellent beaches and boating conditions, but poses challenges for earthquakes. Active fault systems border the west side. The Santa Monica Fault runs along the foothills to the north. The Newport-Inglewood Fault Zone cuts through Inglewood and Baldwin Hills and offshore. Faults like Palos Verdes and Malibu Coast parallel the shoreline. None cross directly beneath Venice, but they're close enough that the soft basin sediments can amplify shaking and trigger liquefaction when saturated sands temporarily behave like liquid, putting old piles, shallow utilities, and unreinforced masonry at greater risk than bedrock sites. The wake-up call came on January 17, 1994, when the magnitude 6.7 Northridge earthquake originated inland and sent waves through the basin westward. Venice's arcades developed cracks, shed bricks, and pier structures revealed their weak spots. What followed was a discreet rebuild. Steel reinforcements hidden beneath fresh stucco, and seismic retrofits quietly added to the colonnades. The Venice Fishing Pier and other waterfront structures received new pile jackets and stronger footings. And though tsunami risks here are rare, distant Alaska quakes can send long-period waves hours later, while nearer submarine landslides or offshore ruptures can agitate the bay in minutes. Marina del Rey's engineered entrance can amplify harbor oscillations, and the flat, low-lying canals offer limited flood protection. But if you look around, you see some of the precautions being taken: posted evacuation routes, regular siren tests, and a simple rule: if there's a strong quake, head inland and uphill immediately. Venice has always been a stage built on shifting ground and water. The key is to build light, brace smart, and know your exits when the earth and ocean show their power. Whether you came for the buried past, or the ghosts of the boardwalk, or just to see Venice Beach in a new light, the stories beneath this shoreline are just as fascinating as the ones playing out above it. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more stories about Southern California and beyond. And to continue the journey, click right here, and I'll see you in the next video.